Hello, today I'm gonna read a little bit and rate Roald Dahl, The Witches, illustrated by Cotton Blake. That's a witch, that's a boy. And this is the blurb. One child a week is 52 years. Squish them and scold them, make them disappear. And it's a really good book. I'll read you a little bit about the front. A note about witches. Contents. A note about witches. My grandmother. How to reorganize a witch. The Grand High Witch. Summer holidays. The meeting. Frizzled like a fritter. Formula 86 delayed action mouse maker. The recipe. Bruno Jenkins disappears. The ancient ones. Metamorphosis. Bruno. Hello, Grandma. The mouse burglar. Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins meet Bruno. The plan. In the kitchen. Mr. Jenkins and his son. The triumphs. The heart of a mouse. It's off to work we go. A note about witches. In fairy tales, witches wear silly black hats and black cloaks, and they ride on broomsticks. But this is not a fairy tale. This is about real witches. The most important thing you should know about real witches is this. Listen carefully, never forget what is coming next. Real witches dress in ordinary clothes and look very much like ordinary women. They live in ordinary houses and work in ordinary jobs. That's why they're so hard to catch. A real witch hates children with red-hot sizzling hatred that is more sizzling and red-hot than any hatred you can possibly imagine. A real witch spends all the time plotting to get rid of children in her particular territory. Her passion is to do away with them one by one. It is all she thinks about the whole day long. Even if she is working as a cashier in a supermarket, or typing letters for a businessman, or driving around in a fancy car, and she could be doing any of those things, her mind will always be plotting and scheming and churning and burning and whizzing and fizzing with murderous, bloodthirsty thoughts. Which child, she says to herself all day long, exactly which child shall I choose for the next squelching? A real witch gets the same pleasure from squelching a child as you get from eating a plateful of strawberries and thick cream. She reckons on doing away with one child a week. Anything less than that, and she becomes grumpy. One child a week is 52 a year. Squish them and squiggle them, and make them disappear. That is the motto of all witches. Very carefully, a victim is chosen, and then the witch stalks the wretched child like a hunter stalking a little bird in the forest. She treads softly, she moves quietly, she gets closer and closer. Then at last, when everything is ready, frisk, and she swoops, sparks fly, flames leap, oil boils, rats howl, skin shrivels, and the child disappears. The witch, you must understand, does not knock on children's heads with sticks, or stick knives into them, or shoot them with a pistol. People who do those things get caught by the police. A witch never gets caught. Don't forget that she can magic dancing in the fingers and devilry dancing in the blood. She can make stones jump about like frogs. She can make tongues of flame go flickering across the surface of the water. These magic powers are very frightening. Luckily, there are not a great number of real witches in the world today, but they are still quite enough to make you nervous. In England, there are probably about 100 of them altogether. Some countries have more, others have not so quite many. No country in the world is completely free from witches. A witch is always a woman. I do not wish to speak badly about women. Most women are lovely, but the fact remains that all witches are women. There's no such a thing as a male witch. On the other hand, a ghoul is always a male. So indeed is a barghest. Both are dangerous, but neither of them is dangerous as a real witch. As far as children are concerned, a real witch is easily the most dangerous thing of all living creatures on earth. What makes her doubly dangerous is the fact that she doesn't look dangerous. Even when you know all the secrets, you'll hear about this in a minute, you can never be quite sure whether it is a witch or you're just gazing at a kind lady. If a tiger was able to make himself look like a large dog with a waggly tail, you'd probably go up to him and pat him on the head. And that will be the end of you. It is the same with witches. They all look like nice ladies. Kindly examine the picture below. Which lady is the witch? That is the most difficult question. But it is one every child must try to answer. For all you know, a witch might be living next door to you right now. Or she might be the woman with the bright eyes who sat opposite you on the bus this morning. She might be the lady with the dazzling smile who offered you a sweet from a white paper bag in the street before lunch. She might even, and this will make you jump, she might even be your lovely school teacher who is reading these words to you at this very moment. Look carefully at the teacher. Perhaps she is smiling at the absurdity of such suggestion. Don't let that put you off. It could be a part of her cleverness. I am not, of course, telling you that for 1 second that your teacher actually is a witch, but I am saying that she might be one. It's the most unlikely, but, and here comes the big but, it is not impossible. Oh, if only there was a way of telling for sure whether a woman was a witch or not. Then we could round them all up and put them in a meat grinder. Unhappily, there is no such way. There are a number of little signals you can look out for. Quick, quirky habits that all witches have in common. And if you know about these, you'll remember them always, and then you might just possibly manage to escape from being squelched before you are much older. Also, I think she's the witch. My grandmother, and then some of these, I like some of these, and I'll read you a few pages from the pages that I like. I'm going to read you a few pages of that. How to reorganize a witch. The next evening, after my grandmother had given me my bath, she took me once again to the living room for another story. Tonight, the old woman said, I'm going to tell you how to reorganize a witch when you see one. Can you always be sure? No, she said. You can't, and that's the trouble. But you can make a pretty good guess. She was dropping cigar ash all over her lap, and I hoped she wasn't going to catch me on fire before she told me how to organize a witch. In the first place, a real witch is certain always to be wearing gloves when you meet her. Surely always, not always. What about in the summer when it's hot? Even in the summer, my grandmother said. She has to. Do you know why? Why, I said. Because she doesn't have fingernails. Instead of fingernails, she has thin, curvy claws like a cat. And she wears the gloves to hide them. Mind you, lots of very respectable women wear gloves, especially in the winter. This doesn't help you very much. Mama used to wear gloves, I said. Not in the house. Witches wear gloves even in the house. They only take them off when they go to bed. How do you know all this, Grandmama? Don't interrupt, she said. Just take it all in. The second thing to remember is that a real witch is always bald. Bald, I said. Bald as a boiled egg, my grandmother said. I was shocked. Was there something incident about a bald woman? Why are they bald, Grandmama? Don't ask me why, but you can take it from me that not a single hair grows on a witch's head. How horrid! Disgusting, my grandmother said. If she's bald, she'll be easy to spot, I said. Not at all. A real witch always wears a wig to hide her baldness. She wears a first-class wig, and it's almost impossible to tell really first-class wig from ordinary hair unless you give it a pull to see if it comes off. And that's what I'm going to do, I said. Don't be foolish, my grandmother said. You can't go around pulling at the hairs of every lady you meet, even if she is wearing gloves. Just try it. You just do try it and see what happens. But that doesn't help much either. None of these things are good on its own. It's only when you put them all together and they begin to make a little sense. Mind you, my grandmother went on, these wigs do cause a rather serious problem for the witches. What problem, Grandmama? They make the scalp show most terribly, she said. You see, when an actress wears a wig, or if you or I wear a wig, we would be putting it over our own hair. But a witch has to put it straight on their naked scalp. and the underneath of the wig is always rough and scratchy. It sets up a frightful itch on the bald skin. It causes nasty sores on the head. Wig rash, the witches call it. And it doesn't half itch. Now, what other things must I look for to reorganize a witch, I said. Look for the nose holes, my grandmother said. Witches have slightly larger nose hole than ordinary people. The rim of each nose hole is pink and curvy, and the rim of like the rim of a certain kind of seashell. Why do they have such big nose holes? I asked. For smelling, with my grandmother said. A real witch has the most amazing powers of smell. She can actually smell our child who stands on the other side of the street on a pitch black night. She wouldn't smell me. I just had a bath. Oh yes, she would. This cleaner happened to be the most smelly you are to a witch. That can't be true, I said. An absolutely clean child gives off the most ghastly stench to a witch. The dirtier you are, the less you smell. But that doesn't make sense, Grandma. Oh yes, it does. It isn't the dirt the witch is smelling. It is you. The smell that drives the witch mad actually comes out of your own skin. It comes oozing out of your skin in waves. These waves, stick waves, the witch call them, go floating through the air and hit the witch right smack in the nostrils, and they send her reeling. Now wait a minute, Grandmama. Don't interrupt, she said. The point is, when you haven't washed for a week and your skin is all covered over with dirt, then quite obviously the stink waves cannot come oozing out nearly so strongly. I shall never have a bath again. Just don't have one too often, my grandmother said. Once a month is quite enough for a sensible child. There's a moment like this when I love my grandmother more than ever. Grandmama, it gets dark at night. How can a witch smell the difference between a child and a grown-up? Because grown-ups don't give out stink waves, she said. Only childs do that. I don't really give out stink waves, do I asked. I'm giving them out at this very moment. I'm not giving them out this very moment, am I? Not to me, you aren't, my grandmother said. To me, you're smelling like raspberries and cream. But to the witch, you probably smell absolutely disgusting. What would I be smelling of? Dog's droppings, my grandmother says. I reeled. I was stunned. Dog's droppings, I cried. I'm not smelling of dog's droppings. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. Anyways, and then they go to a hotel. They get some pet witch. I mean, not witch, but pet mouse. They go to the ballroom and he meets the witches. And then he turns into a witch himself. The recipe. This is how to make it. And I'll tell you about this part because I like it. Wait a second, where should I start with? This was followed by a hubbub of shrieking and yelling. I saw many of the witches leaping to their feet and pointing at the mouse, pointing to the platform and crying out, "Mice, mice, mice, she done it to show us. The radiant one has turned 2 children into mice, and there they are." I looked toward the platform. The mice were there all right, 2 of them running around near the Grand High Witch's skirts. But these were not field mice or house mice or wood mice or harvest mice. They were white mice. I recognized them immediately through my own little William and Mary. Mice, shouted the audience. Our leader has made mice to appear out of nowhere. Get the mousetraps. Fetch the cheese. I saw the Grand High Witch peering down at the floor and staring up with obvious puzzlement at William and Mary. She bent down low to get a closer look. Then she straightened up and shouted, "Quiet! Quiet!" The audience became silent and sat down. These mice have nothing to do with me. These mice are pet mice. These mice are quite obviously belong to one of the repellent little children in the hotel. Anyways, and it's a very good book. They defeat the mice in the end. Very funny. Highly recommended. And hope you get a chance to read it. Sorry. And yeah. Thank you for watching. and hope you have a great day. Bye!